One summer night in June 2014, Derek Broaddus was finishing up renovations on the new home he and his wife Maria had just purchased at 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey. Derek walked out to the front yard and checked the mail. In the mail, he found a couple bills in a small white envelope addressed to the new owner in big, clunky handwriting. Upon opening the envelope, Derek began reading the letter. The first two lines opened with,
"Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood,"
which seems innocent enough, but as Derek kept reading the letter, it quickly took on a different tone. The letter began to ask how the family ended up there, and if they were called to 657 Boulevard from the forces within the home. The following lines read,
657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades, and now, as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out.
If that alone didn't raise some red flags, the next lines of the letter certainly will, because the watcher began to state everything he had observed. He pointed out the Broaddus family car, which was a Honda minivan. He made a statement against the Broaddus family flooding the home with contractors so that they can destroy the home as it was supposed to be, and then warned them that you don't want to make 657 Boulevard angry. The watcher even went as far as to mention the children of the Broaddus family, which were a 5, 8, and 10-year-old. The letter asked if there were more children on the way, and then went on to state,
Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family, or was it greed to bring your children to me? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me.
The envelope had no return address and no way of tracing it back to anyone. The letter then closed out with a frightening message. The watcher wrote,
Who am I? There are hundreds and hundreds of cars that drive by 657 Boulevard each day. Maybe I am in one. Look out from any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all of the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one.
The letter then closed out with the lines,
Welcome, my friends. Welcome. Let the party begin.
Followed by a signature written,
The Watcher.
Upon finishing the letter from the watcher, Derek rushed inside and turned off all the lights, locking all the doors and trying to understand what was happening. It was past 10 p.m. and he was all alone. Derek called the police, and an officer arrived to the home and read the letter. After finishing the letter, the officer was just as shocked and confused as Derek. He asked Derek a couple of questions and then gave him tips to secure the home. Derek went back to his family soon after, who were staying at their old home. Derek and Maria emailed John and Andrea Woods, who had sold them the home, and asked them about the watcher. John and Andrea said that they received a letter from the watcher shortly before leaving the home, but the letter only said that the watcher introduced himself and let them know that he had been watching the home for a long time and thanked them for taking care of the home. But Andrea ignored the letter and threw it out, thinking it was a weird prank. But John and Andrea said that in 23 years of living at 657 Boulevard, they had not seen anything like the letter the Broaddus family had received. The following day, John, Andrea, and Maria went to the police station, and they were warned to not say anything to the neighbors, who were now suspects. The Broaddus family, of course, spent the next few weeks on edge and noticed strange things, like a sign being ripped out of the front yard overnight, and a neighbor mentioning that it would be nice to have some young blood in the neighborhood while being shown around the home by Derek. Approximately 2 weeks after the first letter, Maria stopped by the house to take care of some errands and check the mail, and to her surprise, she found a second letter. The second letter was welcoming the Broaddus family again, and stating more things the watcher had observed, which included the family unpacking personal belongings, work schedules of the contractors, and more small details. But the letter started to take another frightening turn and asked,
Have they found what is in the walls yet? In time they will.
The watcher then went on to address Derek and Maria personally as Mr. and Mrs. Broaddus, which was misspelled, meaning he did not see it written on mail, but was close enough to hear it. The Watcher then proceeded to brag about how much he had learned about the family in the last few weeks and identified the children by their nicknames and their birth order. The Watcher then wrote,
I am pleased to know your names now and the name of the young blood you have brought to me.
And even creepily went on to make a comment about one of the children he watched paint on an easel on the porch and asked,
Is she the artist in the family?
The rest of the second letter goes as follows.
657 Boulevard is anxious for you to move in. It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all of the secrets it holds yet? Will the young blood play in the basement? Or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. Will they sleep in the attic? Or will you all sleep on the second floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me know who is in which bedroom, and I can plan better. All of the windows and doors in 657 Boulevard allow me to watch you and track you as you move through the house. Who am I? I am the Watcher, and I've been in control of 657 Boulevard for the better part of 2 decades now. The Woods family turned it over to you. It was their time to move on, and kindly sold it when I asked them to. I pass by many times a day. 657 Boulevard is my job, my life, my obsession, and now you are too, Broaddus family. Welcome to the product of your greed. Greed is what brought the past 3 families to 657 Boulevard, and now it has brought you to me. Have a happy moving in day. You know I will be watching.
After reading and finishing the second letter from the Watcher, the Broaddus family was petrified, to say the least. Derek and Maria completely stopped taking their children to the home and debated on if they should still move in. Several weeks later, a third letter arrived. This third letter was not as sinister. The Watcher asks in this letter where the Broaddus family has gone off to and lets them know that 657 Boulevard misses them. Some more information about 657 Boulevard is that it was on one of the most sought-after streets in the most well-off neighborhood in a city ranked the United States' 99th richest city across the nation at the time. Westfield residents compared the town of Westfield to Mayberry, the town where the Andy Griffith Show takes place. The home was built in 1905 and was one of the most grandiose homes in the area when the Woods listed it for sale. Seeing as how 657 Boulevard was one of the more sought-after homes in the area, it led to some theories being formed by the Broaddus family. Going back to the main events surrounding the home, the Broaddus family was obviously in a tough spot mentally. They had started an investigation through the police and felt as though they could not move into the home they had just purchased, but had sold their old home already. They were staying with Maria's parents while continuing to make payments on 657 Boulevard. Both Derek and Maria felt depressive episodes and huge amounts of stress surrounding the unforeseen circumstances of 657. As the months went by, the Broaddus family continued to renovate the home. Out of fear of the Watcher, they added a new and high-end alarm system, along with some cosmetic renovations. The Broaddus family also spoke with a priest and asked him to bless the home, which he agreed. In response to the renovations, or to the priest, the Watcher sent a very threatening and unsettling message, which read,
657 Boulevard is turning on me. It is coming after me. I don't understand why. What spell did you cast in it? It used to be my friend, and now it is my enemy. I am in charge of 657 Boulevard. It is not in charge of me. I will fend off its bad things and wait for it to become good again. It will not punish me. I will rise again. I will be patient and wait for this to pass and for you to bring back the young blood. It needs you. Come back and let the young blood play again like I once did. Let the young blood sleep in 657 Boulevard. Stop changing it and let it alone.
The Broaddus family had an ongoing investigation with the local police and even took matters into their own hands, hiring private investigators to investigate neighbors and hiring security companies to run forensics and such on the letters. But no matter what the Broaddus family did, nothing came up. The police investigations zeroed in on a couple people, but ultimately dismissed the suspects. They They also went into a legal battle with the Woods family, the couple who sold them the house, for not mentioning the letter they received from the watcher at any point in the sale of the home. About 6 months after buying the home, in late 2014, the Broaddus family decided to sell the home and were willing to share the letters with serious buyers, but selling a home that already had a healthy rumor floating around town about a stalker or sexual predator proved difficult. The whole situation began garnering lots of attention, and news outlets wanted to do an interview with the Broaddus family about their experience. They were even asked to let their story be produced into a show, but the Broaddus family did not want the publicity and declined every offer. Lifetime Studios produced a movie which prompted the Broaddus family to send cease and desist to Lifetime Studios, but because they had changed some stuff with the Broaddus family, like their race and the name of the Watcher to the Raven, the Broaddus family was not able to stop them from producing the film. After months and months of legal trouble, stress, and worry about finances, and multiple schemes to try to break even on the home by renting or selling to developers, the Broaddus family finally received good news. A family with grown-up children and 2 large dogs agreed to rent 657 Boulevard from the Broaddus family. The renter agreed to move in under the clause that he and his family could leave the lease early if the Watcher sent another letter. Derek went to the home one day and was handed a letter from the tenant from the Watcher. The Watcher had sent another letter, spiting and taunting the Broaddus family. It read,
"Violent winds and bitter cold to the vile and spiteful Derek and his wench of a wife Maria."
The letter then went on to mock the Broaddus family and state that he had followed all the rumors and media coverage and even recruited soldiers in the form of neighbors to go against them in defense of 657 Boulevard, and finished off the letter threatening revenge on them.
Maybe a car accident, maybe a fire, maybe something as simple as a mild illness that never seems to go away but makes you feel sick day after day after day after day after day. Maybe the mysterious death of a pet. Loved ones suddenly die. Planes, cars, and bicycles crash. Bones break.
This letter was sent 2.5 years after the first letter, and the investigation and media coverage had pretty much died out. The Broaddus family took this letter to the police to try and reinvigorate the investigation, but the police weren't willing to, and the Broaddus family moved into a new house and managed to rent out the home, but are still haunted by it and think about it often, running into people in town or children of the family being teased in school. The Watcher closed out his final letter with the following phrase,
"You were despised by the house, and the Watcher won."
No other letters have been mailed to 657 Boulevard since the last one mentioned in this video, or at least none that were made public. With the occurrences that happened to Derek and Maria Broaddus, some theories started to be formed as to who the Watcher is. The first theory is that the Watcher was simply just a buyer who lost out on their dream house and had their offer discarded for a higher offer. This was because the Woods had actually received multiple offers above asking price, and something worth mentioning is that the letters mailed to 657 were processed in Kearney, which is a nearby U.S. Postal Service center in northwestern New Jersey. This theory isn't completely out of the question, but it doesn't hold well against other, stronger theories. The second theory is a man named Michael Langford. The Langfords were a family right next door to 657 Boulevard. Derek believed that it was Michael because he belonged to the Langfords, which were a strange family. The mother, Peggy Langford, was in her 90s and lived with all her adult children who were in their 60s, which isn't a crime or anything horrible, but it isn't very common. Derek thought this would also be a viable theory, because he would be able to see the easel their daughter was painting on from their home. And not to mention that the father of the home, Richard Langford, had died 12 years earlier, and he must have been the father of the current Watcher, who claimed to be on the job for the better part of 2 decades. Michael was brought in for questioning from a detective on the case, but there was no evidence against him. The police let Michael go, but this greatly upset Derek, who fully believed the Watcher was Michael. A third theory was that the Watcher was a former housekeeper or a contractor on the job, since some of the writing and letters included lots of misspelled words, erratic writing, and seemed to have a disdain for wealth, pointing out new people moving into Westfield and ruining it. In one excerpt from a letter, the Watcher said that they used to roam the halls and imagine the lives of the wealthy families who would call it home. The theory was based on a jealous or envious person who could not afford the home and wanted the Broaddus family to feel his pain. The next 2 theories can be talked about together since there isn't much evidence or anything to dive into. One theory is that the Watcher is a sex offender, since the private investigator hired by the Broadduses revealed there were 2 living on the block. The next theory is that the Watcher was a man who lived behind the Broaddus family home, who lived behind 657 Boulevard, because a contractor noticed that the house behind 657 had 2 lawn chairs outside their home, which isn't strange until you consider the lawn chairs were facing 657 Boulevard, and the contractor would see an old man sitting and just watching the home. These 2 theories, however, were not followed up on or emphasized during any investigation. Once the story of the Watcher garnered media attention, a Reddit forum was established, and they spent time trying to solve the case personally, looking at public city records, Google Maps Street View, and other things. The Reddit forum only managed to propose some theories with no actual basis. Some of these theories included a jealous realtor, a discarded mistress from her husband, a teenager in the neighborhood wanting to mess with the new neighbors, and even an aggressive marketing campaign for a horror movie. The last theory was that it was actually Abby Langford, another one of the Langford children, who actually worked as a realtor. The theory was banking on the fact that forensics of one of the letters returned DNA belonging to a woman, paired with the fact that she worked as a realtor. The theory suggests that she was angry over losing out on a hefty commission right next door, seeing as the home was valued at $1.3 million at the time. In 2014, an investigator managed to get a hold of her DNA from a water bottle to have it tested, but the results were negative, and the Langfords were ruled out of suspicion completely after this. The final theory is that the father Derek Broaddus fabricated the entire thing. The theory was pushed by gossips in the area who said he had gotten overambitious purchasing the home, and purchased a home he could not afford, and was trying to find a way to explain why he wasn't moving his family into the home, and also why he wasn't willing to speak to the media, and why there were no return addresses. Considering the stress and conviction the Broadduses displayed when going about the situation to the police or to the public, it doesn't seem like they made it up, but you never know. None of these theories proved anything or brought the family closer to finding the Watcher. The Broaddus family moved on physically, but still continues to struggle with moving on mentally. After exhausting every possible avenue to investigate, the police and investigations withdrew resources. To this day, no one knows who the Watcher really is or what they wanted from the Broaddus family. The identity of the Watcher was never revealed.
And they may still be out there watching you.